All right, there we go.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Jen. Nice to see everyone. So like Jen said, we're gonna use the next little bit of time just to kind of dive a bit more in detail about some of the easier action items that we've discussed in previous meetings. But yeah, if at any point during the talk, you have questions, feel free to stop me. We want this to be more of an open dialogue and really tailored to your experiences with your municipality within the CEC program. So, just say, hey, Matt, shut up and just interrupt me. But with that being said, we'll just go ahead and dive right in. So the first action item we're going to talk about is benchmarking. And so for those that are not familiar with benchmarking, it's a policy that a local government adopts requiring the annual reporting of energy use in buildings. And so why this is important is because buildings actually account for about 60% of the energy used in New York State. And so through benchmarking, this allows you to compare energy usage across your buildings and identify ways to cut energy waste. Benchmarking ultimately helps your municipality make smarter investment decisions. It rewards efficiency and it drives continuous improvement throughout the municipality. And so what I'm going to include here is one of the actual PDFs or one of the actual slides that you would see in what we refer to as the toolkit. So you might hear Jen and I talk about the NYSERDA toolkit. And so this is what an example of one of the web pages that would pop up. And this gives you an overview of why benchmarking is important, what it actually is. And then right below this, you would find a step-by-step slideshow that explains the process of actually going about submitting documents through NYSERDA to get the CEC credit. So I know this is a lot of words, but I wanted to include this so that when you actually go on the NYSERDA website, you're familiar with what you're going to already see, because this is taken directly from NYSERDA. And I don't know if you noticed prior on the first slide, benchmarking has a range of points that you can get. You can get upwards of 300 points through completing 2 different actions within the benchmarking action item. So the first of those is what's called municipal buildings. That's 100 points. And so to get credit for this, you simply submit a certified copy of a local law or ordinance or resolution that shows that you're making available publicly online energy use information for each owned or occupied municipal building that's greater than 1,000 square feet. And so we will talk a bit more about this in a bit. I'm not sure if Kevin is actually on this call quite yet, but through this, in addition to creating that local ordinance, you create an account using what's called the Energy Star Portfolio Manager account. And so don't be scared if you don't have any idea what that is, because Kevin in a bit hopefully is going to kind of walk us through that in a bit more detail. But ultimately through this, you submit a resolution showing that you're going to make available this energy use information. And you also start the process of creating your Energy Star Portfolio Manager account and setting up your profile that includes the profile of the buildings that you're going to use. That includes like the energy use information for each of those buildings. And like I said, this will all make a lot more sense once you're actually able to get into the portfolio manager, yourself.
Whenever you want me to share my screen here.
Okay, sure. So I was going to finish with the benchmarking and then throw it over to you if that's okay.
Yep, sounds good.
Perfect. Okay, so that is the first action that you could do worth 100 points. And then the second is what's called advanced reporting, and that's 200 points. And so one of the criteria for this is that you would submit a screenshot of the web page on your municipal website where it's showing the benchmarking report is posted. And so to achieve this, you have to include no less than 24 months of energy use information. If for some reason your municipality doesn't have a website, this information must be made available, upon request through NYSERDA. And then the second thing is that you have to share the portfolio manager account that Kevin's about to go over. You'll have to share that with NYSERDA, and there are a bit more specifics of how to go about doing that. But in all, the date of completion for this particular action is the date when that sharing request is accepted by NYSERDA. And so this is just an overview of what the Energy Star Portfolio Manager is. And with that, I think it'd be really helpful, Kevin, if you're able to kind of walk us through your Energy Star Portfolio Manager account. That would work. So I will stop sharing mine and then pass it over to you.
All right, is everyone seeing the portfolio manager screen? I have 3 screens, so I often share the wrong one. Okay. So, Energy Star, a lot of us are familiar with them because, if you have like an efficient appliance, it's the same, federal government agency or program that does that. So Lewis County passed the energy benchmarking resolution back in 2016. It wasn't really acted upon until this last year. And, we decided to move forward with using it to inform our energy decisions, as well as getting those additional 200 points by creating a report. Now for a second. So, as a county, we have a lot more buildings than, the towns and villages. So these are our list of our buildings that are over 1,000 square feet. Some of them we lease, but we decided to include those as well. And, for each of them, it just gives a brief overview of your Energy Star score, and then some of the emissions that come out of that. But I'm going to use our courthouse because our courthouse has both electric and natural gas, so you can kind of get a better sense. So in each, you have to enter 2 years of energy data as part of the conditions for the clean energy communities. So we have 2019 and 2020. We'll give you a side-by-side comparison. So our emissions are down and our energy costs went up for that year. And then you can even sort of go to the energy, once I'm on after this, I'll show you how you enter your bills, but it gives you an overview of kind of your usage by month to month, with natural gas being down in the summer makes sense and up in the winter. That was helpful. And then you want to enter your bills, you create a account. Show all years. So this is our electric meter. And, for if I wanted to add another entry, so the last one I entered was January 27th of this year. I've been a little lazy in the spring. So I would, enter the new bill starting the 27th and say it went to February 27th. I would enter the kilowatt hours, which is, listed on your utility bill. I would enter how much we paid. And then that would, just continue tracking our energy so we can make those side-by-side comparisons. But, for every month, all you would have to, if you only have one building that has electric, you would, do this once a month, and then you would go to, we have our natural gas account. And then the more you use it, the easier it gets. And Energy Star, once you subscribe, they'll actually email you about different tutorials of how to use it, which I find super helpful. They probably have like 2 of those a month. And again, like you'll start to become familiar with the different units on your natural gas bill. Everything will be in terms, and you just enter the dates and make sure that it's continuous. If say for example, up here I put January 4th to February 4th, and then I started this one on February 6th, it would let me know I was missing a date, and it would give me an error message so I could correct it. And then using all this information, we created our benchmarking report. And I used the exact same, headings from those tables I was showing you in Energy Star. So for each building, the name, how big is it, with the floor area, and then taking the energy use intensity, which is calculated by Energy Star just by putting in how many kilowatt hours, how many therms for natural gas. If you have propane, you can put propane in too. So they'll do those calculations for both the energy use intensity and the weather normalized emissions. And then just add it up, and we did a side-by-side comparison. So that was 2019, and then 2020 was a bit less. We expect that it was less, like I think it was, I don't know, about 15% less, but we were closed, half of March, all of April, and most of May because of the pandemic. So I think in terms of clean energy communities, we couldn't prove that we implemented efficiency measures besides just not coming to work. But say you did install a heat pump, that would be a really useful way to show from year to year how the cost changed and the emissions changed. And then we received the 200 points for this report, and I'm happy to provide it as an example or a template for others to use. I can pause for questions. I know that was kind of a lot at once. Does anyone have any questions about anything they want to see within Portfolio Manager?
I would just like to add that, and I apologize if somebody said this previously, that while in our world, it would be fantastic if you each did your own EPA Portfolio Manager uploading and maintenance. That is certainly something that we at ANCA we typically do. And I'm not sure if we're going to get into a little bit more details and like next steps at the next step stage of benchmarking. The point though is that long term, like Kevin just talked about the updating part, that will be on your plate. You'd be doing the updating. So we at ANCA also have we have videos, we have resources to help. We can do trainings to help navigate to the entire program. But to reiterate, there is not an expectation that you will be in there yourself entering to start with. There's also a really good chance we're going to have an intern in the very near future that this is what they will be doing. So yeah, it will be enormously helpful.
Yeah, and building off what Jen said, whether it's within your own municipal government or with ANCA or your county, you can share kind of the properties you create. So you have to do that with NYSERDA to get proof that you're doing this. So that's what you see here. This is shared with NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities, but like Kim, if you wanted to share it with me or something like that, or you want to share it with your other board members, that can kind of disperse the responsibility of it a bit, which is nice. Because sometimes it's hard to, and if there's an issue, you can kind of ask someone else to log on, because explaining what's going on in an online portal is kind of hard unless someone else has eyes on it. So I think that's another thing. Everyone can make have more than one person make an account, and then you can share it with them, and you'll both have access.
So I guess in addition to questions about the Portfolio Manager, did anyone have questions about the other two parts of the benchmarking action item?
Nope.
Okay. Let's see.
I'm just going to interject really quickly, Matt. Were you done with benchmarking?
Yeah, go for
it. So just again, just to really bring it back into and this is just a point of reiteration because Matt did an excellent job with the overview. That if there's nothing else you've done, this is a really important next step to do. Distilling it down, you have to pass a resolution. We have a template, we can provide that. From there, if you can send us ideally 2 years worth of utility information, if not 1 year of utility information, and there's a variety of ways that we received that. But most challenging is a super thick stack of copies of every single bill that you've gotten from your electric utility and your gas utility or fuel utility in the past 2 years. That's hard, but we will do it. And from the ideal situation is we've gotten spreadsheets that are organized by accounts. that's really helpful for us, because then we can just translate those spreadsheets into the EPA portfolio manager spreadsheets. But I want to offer that if you're the community that's going to be photocopying actual utility bills, there are a lot of ways that we could help you by maybe even sharing how other municipalities are tracking their energy consumption, that can streamline things and make it a lot easier in general. Forget about PEC, but just make it in general easier for you to manage your payments, especially on the electrical side of things. And the last part I'm going to add to that is that I don't think I've ever had a community that I've gone through the benchmarking process with that we have not identified something that saved them money. One of the biggest things that we find are communities that are involved in ESCO, Energy Service Company contracts that are, pardon me, ridiculous. The village of Burke was paying 23 cents a kilowatt hour when, because of the contract that they were into, they didn't even know they had the contract. So identifying unfavorable ESCOs is one of the biggest things that happen. But from there, we had another community that somebody was leaving an electric space heater on in the wintertime in a highway garage, and nobody knew about it. And it was a very clear, measurable savings by just saying, hey, dude, turn the thing off. So I just want to stress that benchmarking is really, really important. And that if you are going to pursue the clean energy upgrades in the future, you have to have a baseline to operate from. So we really need benchmarking to be in place before you even consider that element.
Perfect. Any questions, any comments? Okay. All right, so we'll move on to the next action item, which is also one of the more straightforward action items through the CEC program, which is Unified Solar Permit. So within the point system, this one will allot 200 points. And so the purpose of the Unified Solar Permit, it's designed for municipal facilities to streamline the approval process for installing solar. The standardized permit that you would adopt is expected to help municipalities cut costs by creating a uniform permitting process throughout the state. And so as your municipality were to adopt this permit, it helps save time for your installers and for the municipality alike, along with resources permitting the solar electric system installation. And so once again, like I did before, this is one of the screenshots of what you would see from the NYSERDA website that gives an overview of why this sort of upgrade would be efficient for your municipality, and then moving into some of the requirements for how you can go about completing this action item. The first of which is submitting a certified copy of a local law or resolution, much like with the benchmarking that we talked about before. So NYSERDA, I don't know if I mentioned this with the benchmarking, but NYSERDA actually provides templates that you can use to sort of create these ordinances or resolutions. Those are available in the toolkit on NYSERDA's website. So you submit a copy of this ordinance or the law, along with a copy of the Unified Solar Permit that you're going to use for your jurisdiction. And so an example of what that might look like, I don't know if everyone's screen is in front of it, but on the right-hand side here, we have sort of an example of what that would look like. And so in addition to submitting the ordinance, you would just submit a copy of, the permit that you're going to be using as well. And so for the Unified Solar Permit, this is for simple small-scale installations, less than 25 kilowatts. And so once again, this is a pretty straightforward one that could be something, to kind of get your municipality started within the CEC program, or something to kind of help go ahead and get that one action item towards the fore for designation. So ultimately,
can I interrupt?
Yep, go for it.
So you're saying under 25 kilowatts, does that mean like residential stuff too? Is that what we're talking about? Or are we talking just strictly like a solar farm?
Residential, commercial.
Residential, commercial. Okay, that's what I was wondering. I'm like, I was all confused.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's when your local code enforcement, and I apologize, I'm not clear. We're not clear who on the call does code enforcement. Kevin, I just asked you that. Is there anybody here?
Yeah, Kim, you're covered by the county, so.
Yeah, yeah, because we don't do our own code enforcement, but yes, the county would come in and.
Yeah, and we passed the unified solar permit, so it's authorized for you.
Okay, so we could actually use your resolution then? Is that what you're saying?
No, it means it exists in the community, but you don't get any points, unfortunately.
Oh, all right.
Is that correct, Jen?
Sorry. Was there anybody else that does do code enforcement that's on the call, Kevin, that you can see?
Okay. So yeah, if there are no other questions, like I said, this one was pretty straightforward. We won't spend too much time on this one, but yeah, this would be a good stepping stone if you're interested in trying to get one of those action items knocked out of the way quickly. Okay, so moving on to the next one, clean fleets. So once again, this one is an action item that has multiple different point structures that you can get, completing one or more of the different actions that I'll talk about here in a second. But the goal of this particular action item is it's an effort by local governments to invest in electric vehicles and infrastructure while increasing opportunities for your municipality's constituents to access electric vehicle charging stations. So while this is important, compared to gasoline-powered cars, electric vehicles are more energy efficient and cost about 50 to 70% less to operate per mile. And of course, electric vehicles reduce greenhouse gas emissions and pollutants. So pretty straightforward and understanding why these are useful in having. And so this is once again just keeping everything consistent. That's what you would see from the NYSERDA website. And then I'll talk about each of these points individually, but ultimately to get credit for this, you have to complete one or more of the 3 different points here. And so that leads me to the first one, which is charging stations. So this one is worth 200 points. And to complete this under the Clean Fleets action item, you have to submit a completed Clean Fleets certification form, which is available in the NYSERDA toolkit online, that demonstrates that the municipality has either provided either 2 level 2 charging ports or 1 DC fast charging port. And so the equipment must be active and municipality owned or leased. The date of completion for this would be the date at which the equipment that you're implementing is operational. So that one, does anyone have any questions specifically about what, the differentiations between the 2 types of charging ports, or what this one means? Pretty straightforward.
I actually had a question. I learned that the town of Leiden, who has previously been a designated clean energy community, they put their charging station at the Edge Hotel, which is a private business. And I was, just wondering if that's a type of arrangement that our municipalities can make, because kind of knowing maybe, looking at where in their community would get the most traffic might not be, the town hall. So just looking at, like, just for the example of Turin, I know they're not on this call, but like they have a ski resort in their town. So like maybe more people will go there than other places. I don't know if you have examples from other North Country communities. I mean, it seemed to work for Leiden, but I haven't followed up on it. I guess just wondering on the criteria for the citing of it and how that works for communities to get points.
Right. Jen, did you want to?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So the short answer is that it needs, as Matt just pointed out, it needs to be municipally owned, but it absolutely can be cited someplace else. And we have a template, it's called a conservation easement, that the VEC has drafted. It's a template that you can customize and structure if you want to enter into a relationship. You don't have to use the easement. It's just it's a guidance to help show you the kinds of things that you would want to work out, like who's going to plow it and what if somebody runs it over and all of those types of things. But it does need to clearly be municipally owned. This is not necessarily what you asked, Kevin, but in other municipalities, and you may know this better than I do, that you can't just give the electricity away. You have to charge a fee because municipalities aren't allowed to give things away. So the couple of points along that end is that there are networking fees that come with the charging stations in order for you to be able to charge, depending on whoever you end up with as a contractor. That's just an important question to ask. What are the annual networking fees? If it's in a place with high traffic, then you will likely recoup your fees by however much you decide to charge. I can tell you, Fair Neck Lake, the village, they said theirs at their police station, and they're around 15 cents per kilowatt hour. So there is a recoup factor. But basically, and it's not free, but it's pretty darn close to free right now. NYSERDA and NYSEG both have incredibly generous programs right now that pay for nearly all of the costs, if not all of the costs, in a rebate reimbursement situation for the actual station, the dual port station that Matt talked about. And then each utility also has a make ready program that covers about 90% of the costs to bring the electric service to the station. And I can tell you, I'm going through the process myself in NYSEG territory, and it's really straightforward. And we have like a $5,000 electric upgrade that is basically going to get paid for by NYSEG. So now, if you're even remotely thinking about EV, now's the time to do it. We can put you in touch with contractors, and from there, the contractors know how to navigate the whole entire system, and we'll walk through the whole thing. That's way more than you asked, Kevin. I'm sorry. So going back to just to recap, yes, they absolutely can cite it someplace else. There's a couple of other hoops that have to be jumped through.
Sure. I know there's multiple, towns and villages on the call, but Kim, is Copenhagen, I thought I heard once that you guys were moving forward with one. Is that mid?
Yeah, it's we've done all of the behind the stuff. We're just waiting on the contractor at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
And you had a good experience with the utility?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there wasn't really anything to it. It just was basically signing the paperwork and moving forward. Yeah, it was just board resolutions and away it went.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Any other questions before going forward?
Kim, I'm curious where you cited it.
They're going to be at the village office just because we have parking there. We talked about putting one possibly at the fire station too, but I think, with needing renovations and some things there, we weren't exactly sure if we were ready to put it there. So we'll probably just put it right at the village office for now and go from there. So we could probably place one at the school if we wanted to. That would be the other sort of public space that would make a little bit of sense to put it there, but I would think the school could probably do their own.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Do you know what your networking costs were in your contract?
It would actually, that was going to be all reimbursed through does $500 sound right? Because that actually was, yeah.
You're going to reimburse the networking costs? That's awesome.
I think, yes. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure of it.
That is
I'd have to go back and look at the thing, but they were going to reimburse everything. It actually was not going to cost us a dime.
Fantastic.
For the first couple of years.
Okay, that's super. Yay.
Perfect. So the next 2 points that I'm going to make are fairly similar. They're just differentiated between light and medium duty electric vehicles, and then we have the heavy duty electric vehicles. So for this particular one with light and medium, it's 300 points, and you just need to submit a form to demonstrate that your municipality has deployed at least one hybrid or battery electric vehicle. So one of the most common questions I think people ask is, well, I have a hybrid vehicle that we deployed, does that count? And so in order for it to qualify under this particular action item, it does have to have at least a plug-in of some type in order for it to classify as a battery operated electric vehicle under the CEC program. So so either deploying one light or medium duty electric vehicle or heavy duty electric vehicle like a school bus or public transit bus, will get you either 300 points or 400 points or both if you're able to do both. And so for both of these, the date of completion for this particular action item is the date that the equipment is operational and functioning within your municipality. So were there any questions about those 2 points?
It's not really a question, but something I guess it's partially statement, partially question. I saw that the state's putting out this rebate program that seems to be like a really short timeline for light and medium duty vehicles ranging from 2,500 to 7,500, and it seems like it was based on efficiency, like maybe the fully electric or higher. Have you had any communities express interest in that or ask questions? Because it seems like a good opportunity for get these rebates for both for 3-year leases and purchases, but I just don't. I guess I just don't know enough.
So, and for me, I haven't, in the few communities I've talked with, I haven't had anyone ask questions about that. I always mention that there are rebate, options out there for those types of vehicles. But Jen, you might have had more experience working with municipalities that might have those questions.
Yeah, same thing. No communities that I'm aware of at this point in time. I will just add from personal experience, having just purchased an electric vehicle, that the rebate is rolled into the dealer. So
Okay.
it's I'm not 100% confident in the way that the rebate and the sticker price get meshed together, but it's still a great. It does help.
Okay.
It does make a
This
difference.
This one was through DEC. Would that be the same as traditional rebates? Because
for specifically for municipalities, you mean the municipal rebate?
Yeah.
I understand. Okay. Yeah. So that we have had in the past communities take advantage of that.
Okay.
It's been a bit. But that's certainly something that we could will link to that program.
Sure, because I think there's only 300,000 statewide, and given that the rebates are 2,500 to 7,500, I just don't want the Hudson Valley to take them all.
But Hudson Valley's taking everything right now. They're just like, come on, guys, be fair. But
yeah, so it's a little bit like I don't fully understand the program, but I had seen it, so I just wanted to bring it up. But I thought it was interesting that 3-year leases were also eligible. So for communities that lease their vehicles, you could still get that rebate.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, we definitely will. Or maybe I'll even pop the link in the chat as Matt continues. But thank you. That's very helpful.
So yeah, I think moving forward, I think we wanted to make sure we covered these 3 action items as best as we could and sort of gauge who on the call would be interested and are there any is there any interest in the previous action items that people want to kind of discuss, and maybe we could kind of talk about like the next steps, either individually with myself or Jen, or as a group. Is there any interest in either benchmarking clean fleets or in the unified solar permit?
No, no, it's really just getting the 2 years worth of bills together. That's
Sure.
the problem, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
We will definitely
than
work
that-
with you on that too.
yeah, because that's the hardest part of it, and that's probably the most overwhelming, is someone who will probably end up being the one that inputs all of that information. So yeah.
Okay.
We will do the inputting, just to be clear. And also to be clear, we have actually showed up in municipal offices and sat down at the copying machine before. Like we feel so strongly about benchmarking that we will do whatever we can. Another option that other municipalities, some are okay with and some are not, is to grant us temporary access to an online account through National Grid, where you have to set that up to start with.
Right.
But then we've had communities, some just give us their password, others are like, all right, we'll give it to you for a week. And that allows us to go straight to National Grid. We are also working on opportunities to link your online account directly to EPA portfolio manager so that they talk to each other. And
Okay.
also, again, the 2 years is ideal. It really should be 1 year.
Right.
How many buildings do you guys have?
We only have three main buildings, so it's
Yeah.
really not, and I'm not even sure that one of those would even qualify as big enough to be there. But, yeah, we don't, it's not like it's an overwhelming thing. It's just pulling out all of those bills and sorting through them to know which one is which.
Yeah, and again,
Yeah.
we would be, especially now that things are easing up, we would be more than happy to sit with you face to face and look at your bills. And yeah, if anyone on the call is interested, and even if you are feeling overwhelmed, reach out to Matt and I, and we will handhold you through that next step. Especially, Kim, if you guys having the EV charging station, you're well on your way.
Yeah, because we have passed the resolution and stuff for the benchmarking. It's just getting the benchmarking started.
Yeah, it's painful, but it's so worth it. And then once it's done, and over
Right.
time updating, especially if we can automate.
Sure.
It happen. So
Perfect. All right, so there's that. And then I guess, Jen, did you want to sort of chime in about some other points?
yeah, so I'd like to just do a quick poll. Have any of you been contacted, this community solar community campaign piece that we've brought up in the past, where we are on a weekly basis is being approached by marketers from community solar campaigns coming to us to basically get their customers. But they always are saying, oh, we're blanketing the North Country, we're reaching out to municipalities. So we've asked this in the past, and I think we're pretty aware with communities who are actively engaged who have been approached. But I wanted to ask the group if anybody has been contacted by a community solar developer, has questions about what a community solar campaign or a community campaign might look like and how it relates to CEC.
I think that's something that we probably need to go through as we move forward. I understand what it is, but I don't know that our board is fully aware of what it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I would be happy, because we do still have some time. I'd be happy to do a quick update on what that means. But before I do dive in, is it anybody else? Wayne, Mark, Christy, anybody else have solar developers or any contractors in general who are coming at you with some offering that? Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well then, yeah, and this is actually another action item that would be really helpful for us to talk about. Well, do you mind going back?
Oh, sorry.
So that NYSERDA will give you your community at this point in time. There are still funds for you to get a $5,000 grant to conduct a community campaign. The most common community campaign that we're seeing right now is a community solar campaign. And what this would look like is that you as the municipality would partner with, typically you partner with a contractor. It's a marketing company again. You can decide to go through an RFP or not. We recommend using an RFP. But you would partner with, again, we'll use the example in community solar. You would partner with that developer. And if you can get 10 people in your community to sign up for a community solar campaign, you're golden. There's a scoping document that you have to submit to NYSERDA in advance of the campaign that basically just proves that you, the municipality, have a vetted interest. We have plenty of contractors who will just do the whole thing for you, but that's not the point for NYSERDA. NYSERDA needs to see the municipal involvement in this. The $5,000 grant is yours to do with what you want. It's to support the campaign. It might be something that you use for marketing. It's your choice in how you use it. So anybody on the call, as we're thinking next steps, and to get you everyone to that $5,000 grant point, if that's what you're interested in, by 4 action items, this is definitely one that's on the table. And And again, that $5,000 grant that's listed is in addition to the $5,000 grant you get once you became a designated CEC. I'll stop there. So, yeah, any questions here or as follow-up, if any of these action items grab you, reach out to us and we'll get you moving forward. Any questions about the? Awesome. So this, so next slide, I guess, Matt, would be really good. So this is a good chance, you know, if you're anything like me, you probably have to hear this 1,000 times. What's the difference between community solar and CCA? So I'm going to pass this over to Kevin really briefly to give a little bit of an update on what's going on with community choice aggregation in Lewis County. And then we'll get back and talk about what that means for your communities in effect.
Sure. So just kind of given the nature of community choice aggregation, you know, the aggregation piece being like you're pulling the demand of residents and small businesses, religious, you know, your churches and buildings like that. And our rural character, we kind of took an approach that we saw in Monroe County in the Finger Lakes of, you know, putting out a RFP to kind of look at the prospect of having multiple communities, you know, participate in a community choice aggregation, kind of to just streamline that process and potentially, you know, have greater savings. And then also knowing there's only 3 companies in New York State that do this. So we kind of, you know, it's a select group. So we put together an RFP to, you know, ask questions about, you know, like, are you able to guarantee the 100% renewable energy that's required for clean energy community points? Are like, how do you, you know, work with multiple municipalities? Do you guarantee, you know, equal prices from one community to another? How do you make those calculations? You know, what are your contract terms, limits? How do you protect people's, you know, data when you go through these processes? So we just want to do a comprehensive vetting process, you know, to then make a recommendation to our communities. You know, we select this installer. You know, and we're putting that before our Board of Legislators on June 1st for them to you know, to sign off on approval for who we ultimately recommend. So that'll be public at that point. But just have what we've seen with other parts of the state, you know, having multiple municipalities come together has been a really successful model, both in the Hudson Valley and Finger Lakes, and especially with our population. And again, like since we are a county, we cannot, you know, enter in a CCA agreement. We just wanted to make it, you know, as easy as possible for our municipalities to do so and kind of, you know, have some assurances that these people are who they say they are and they have experience providing savings for communities and residents. And again, like there's opportunities for multi-county partnerships. Like, you know, this isn't exclusively a Lewis County thing, you know, especially within the RACOG, you know, network. There's a lot of, you know, cross Jefferson, Lewis County partnerships. So, you know, the municipalities are ultimately, it's their choice what they do. So, you know, we're happy to support a group CCA as long as, you know, someone from Lewis County is at the table, whether there's communities from Jefferson or St. Lawrence, you know, involved, we're happy to support that. Did you have any questions on that, Jen?
I don't. Is anybody? Wayne, Mark, Kim, Christy?
Yeah, I wish I could say a little bit more, but just till, you know, we have to put it before the board and get it approved. So I can't speak to what their decision will be. But we're excited to, you know, at least, you know, have a bit of a unified vision for Lewis County, at least from our leadership. Because there's just a lot of information that goes into this. And, you know, I think the RFP was like 16 pages of questions. And fortunately, these CCA companies were interested in answering them and working with North Country communities.
Yeah, that's awesome. And this is an incredible opportunity that Lewis County is offering. Again, as Kevin said, it's not, Lewis County isn't a direct recipient of the effort, but it's something on behalf of Lewis County and again, the partnership potentially with Jefferson County So we definitely will be talking about this more in the future, but in terms of the previous conversation about community solar campaigns, one of the biggest questions is, you know, what's the difference and can we do both? And the short answer is you can definitely do both. If you do decide to pursue a community solar campaign, you can still do CCA. CCA is a long run game. It takes a while for it to get to fruition, but certainly what Kevin offered by way of managing an administrator RFP is a huge first step. A next step then would be for your municipality, if you decide you want to participate in CCA, is to do a resolution saying that you're going to do it. And then once the administrator is selected, really they hold your hand through the entire process. That's their job at that point. That's what they do. So Matt, did you have anything you wanted to add or ask about community participation?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
So with the RFP, we asked for, you know, references from municipalities that have, you know, gone through this process. Their CCAs are up and running. So based on who we choose, you know, we'll have some contacts for mayors and supervisors. If, you know, any of you are interested in hearing what, you know, another elected official's experience was, because, you know, there is a little bit of, you know, community outreach and education. So beyond just understanding the benefits, knowing what the experience of the community response was, we'd be happy to provide that information once we have our partner. Because I think that they can provide a perspective that none of us can, because we're not elected officials, and you are. So happy to do that.
Very exciting opportunity. So to wrap up, and again, questions and comments, feedback, always welcome. Into next steps, I want to circle back. So to put it into simplest terms, benchmarking. Next step with any of this would be to reach out to Matt and I, Matt, Jefferson County, Jennifer, and Lewis County, to say, hey, we want to pursue this. We're ready to move forward. Benchmarking, you would need to pass a resolution. We have a template, and we're going to follow up with a link to this recording. So everything will be in that follow-up. It'll be a little toolkit for this workshop that's available for you. So you have to pass your resolution, get us a year's worth of your utility information for buildings over 1,000 square feet that are heated year round. So it really isn't as onerous as it sounds. That's benchmarking. Unified solar permits, if you have zoning and if you have a code enforcement in your community, you have to pass a resolution and you adopt the permit, which we have templates for both of those things. You customize the permit, you send it to NYSERDA. And again, once you get to the submission point, we will hold your hand through that too. It's really not that hard at all. The third thing, EV charging stations, next steps. Let us know you're interested. If you want to site it someplace in a high traffic area, we will provide you a template for the easement, the agreement. We will provide you a list of contractors if you so need. And we can provide any technical support that you might, if you have a general question, like what's a dual port level 2 charging station? What does that mean? We would happily answer those questions. But once you have selected a contractor, they're great. They know what they're doing. They will hold your hand through everything. So EV charging station follow-up, let us know you're interested. We'll send you back a list of contractors. And we've got Kim on board and Leiden on board to provide that firsthand experience if you want to do a peer-to-peer community solar campaign. If you're interested, let us know and we will we can provide an RFP template. We will help walk you through the scoping document process. Those are the first steps to get into it. And also, if you do decide to do RFP to select a contractor, or just can connect you with some contractors that we know who are in the area. CCA, Community Choice Aggregation, next steps, stay tuned. As Kevin shared, there's more information coming, but the CCA will be something that when we have a workshop, it will be a CCA workshop. And the point of that, at this point in time, will be to identify everybody that wants to participate, and that's what we will be doing for CCA. But there will likely be some educational opportunities before that to bring everybody up to speed. I've got a couple of a comment about another grant that's out there that's available that I wanted to share with everyone, but I'm going to stop again for questions, comments, feedback. How's everybody doing? Is this feeling overwhelming, bite-sized? We're hoping it's bite-sized. That's the whole point of this. Just take a little nibble. The next thing you know, you've got 4 action items. You've got $5,000, and maybe you're close to 3,000 points, and you get another $10,000 for your community to do some really great stuff. Okay, so other next steps, you're gonna get an email follow-up with a link to this recording, and like I said, all of the templates and things like that. I did want to remind everybody that June 2nd, we have a meeting set up with NYSERDA. If show of hands or just if talking, is anybody here dealing with a large scale solar project in your community? This is really big, like more than 25 kW, like hundreds of megawatts of the solar that would take up hundreds of acres. Is anybody on this call dealing with a large scale solar project in your backyard?
No, but I can reach out to the municipalities in Lewis County that are, if you'd like them there.
Yeah, well, and that'll be, so I guess that's just a reminder, if anybody thinks that you might be approached at some point in time, it would be a really helpful meeting to be a part of, because we want to really make sure that any municipality that's being approached by a large scale utility scale solar project, that you know exactly what how to protect yourselves and your community before the developers come to you. And if you're in the middle of it, you know, that's where this came from. One of our last meetings, there's some communities that are like, you know, they're just trying to navigate a lot of information and decisions. That's coming up June 2nd. But I did want to offer that I'll share this in my link too, that there is a Climate Smart Communities grant that's for municipalities looking to do energy saving greenhouse gas emitting reduction projects. So I will link to that. I put in the chat as well the link, the EC municipal rebate, which Kevin talked about. But Climate Smart Communities grants are pretty exciting, and you really can you can get some pretty interesting stuff done with those. And I'm going to send another one if anybody has any interest in community scale composting. There are some grants available for municipalities who are interested in doing some larger scale composting, organic waste reduction efforts. And Kevin, since you're on the phone, I'm going to tell you this one exciting bit of information that you might know, but you're leaving. The DEC is has a grant. But the DEC is going to be providing technical assistance for Climate Smart Communities efforts in the area. Like they're going to have like what Matt and I do, but it's for Climate Smart Communities. Like I can't remember if they shared that with you the last time we spoke. So
That is great news.
that's really great news.
With 13 actions in this one, that one's got, I think, 118.
It's a lot.
I mean, of course, you know, no one's expected to do all of them. There's some duplicate efforts within that, which is nice. You know, you get choices, but that'll be super helpful.
Yeah. Well, that's all I got. Matt, closing thoughts, Kevin, again, anything anybody wants to ask or offer?
Yeah, I think one of the questions we wanted to kind of pull the audience with is in terms of our next meeting, are there any action items of interest that you would like to learn more about? I know we've talked about some of them in passing today. Are there any action items that would be really of interest to you for workshop 3? Okay. Yeah, so I think Jen and I will, we'll touch base. As always, I'll provide our contact information, and please feel free to email myself or Jen one-on-one, and we can definitely answer more specific questions if something pops up after this meeting. I'm available anytime, and so is Jen, so we're here to help.
And Kim, get in touch as soon as you're online so we can get that submitted.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and I think there might be some more interest to, I'll share this link with the RACOG group too. I know someone responded that they couldn't make the meeting today.
Perfect.
So I'll send that along too, and maybe they'll also have some input for you too.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for joining today, and hopefully we'll see everyone soon.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Jen.
Yeah, thank you.
you.
Bye.
Okay.